We'll hope that it's got something that will help us recall it later on. Listening to speaking audios. All right, Moses. So there is a couple of comments with that sentence right there. Speaking audios, if you're talking about controlled um practice audios, because this is something that I get all the time from my students, and I'm really sorry, but there's no such thing as please choose a simple series for me to watch. We're kind of destroying the point here. So if I give you really simple audio exercises where speakers are speaking very slowly like this, and they are making every word super clear and like, that's not really going to improve your overall speaking skills. It might improve your listening skills a little bit if you are elementary, if you are a beginner, right? However, the higher you are, like intermediate and up, you need to be exposed to authentic language. You need to be exposed to movies and series that use natural speed and natural language, because that's how you are going to increase your knowledge and increase your skills, because you're being put in the position itself. And thankfully, comprehension is not a 1 + 1 = 2 situation. It's the first time I understand 1%. The second time I watch a different episode, it will be 5%, not 2%, right? So, accordingly, you'll be able to pick it up and you'll be able to understand, and that's how you're going to be able to produce. Make sense? So, if it's something that is completely academic, you got to watch out for it, and it's going to help you a lot. Now, what the difference is between this being something that you do to improve your general conversation skills and your general speaking skill is different from the audios that Dr. Khalil gives you for your IELTS training. The audios that Dr. Khalil gives you for your IELTS training are supposed to be super structured. They're there to help you see how you're able to answer the questions in your speaking tests and exams. Got it? So, the speaking audios are there, the ones that Dr. Khalil has, because they are academically inclined. They are there to help you copy them and apply them and shadow them, Rufaida, yes, to make sure you are able to produce the exact band that you want to reach. IELTS, you guys, IELTS in itself is more than just the language. And that's why we have to take IELTS preparation courses, and sometimes we need that. It's more than just the language. This person is there for a couple of minutes to assess you and to look for specific key points and specific vocabulary. And accordingly, they're going to assign you a band. Sorry, might sound a bit unfair, but that's life. And that's why there are specific things that I don't want you to confuse. There's a difference between the general skill and the IELTS preparation of it. Okay. So you may be an author, like you may be an amazing writer, but for IELTS, you got to make sure that you apply everything that you need to cover in order to get the band that you want to get. How can I get rid of hesitation? Rhonda, the first step would be for you to understand why the hesitation occurs. We need to know why it happens. Is it because you lack vocabulary? Is it because you lack confidence? Is it because you are thinking in Arabic first? Accordingly, we'll find out exactly what we can do to eliminate it. Right? So for each one, you have to do a different approach, or you have to apply a different approach. Fatima agrees. It's not about speed. High five. The problem is that people mix up things when it comes to fluency versus a sound accent. They might believe that being fluent is strictly connected to having a good accent. I agree. I completely agree, Nermeen. So, having a good accent will only help you so far as the idea of being clear with your vocabulary. And just so we're clear, you guys, correct pronunciation has nothing to do if you are applying the American accent, the Australian accent, the Indian accent. The idea is that you're pronouncing the words correctly. The pronunciation of words correctly means that you are making sure that every sound is given the correct pronunciation. So you're not pronouncing the TH like French people do, z, for example, that the R is correct, that your B's and your P's are very clear, right? And this is not about accent. This is about correct pronunciation. All right. Nice, nice, nice. Let's see. I think we've got a couple of questions here. May I ask for some strategies and procedures that we should follow to improve our fluency? Definitely. You're not going to like the first one, Abdurrahman. The first one is to speak. So remember how I said in order to develop your speaking skills, you actually have to speak? That's a real thing. If you're not comfortable about speaking yet, a lot of my students have spoken to themselves in the mirror. They've recorded themselves speaking. So it worked for some people. Like some people need that little stepping stone to help give them that boost that they're able to get English out in the open. And if that works for you, you can go ahead and do that. My advice would be for you to shadow. That's number one. So copy expressions, idioms, scenes from movies or series that you really found interesting. But like I said, watching them and saying them like you're reading a book is not going to help you if you're not applying the same thing that they are actually doing themselves, right? The other thing was for you to actually speak to someone. Speaking to someone is going to help you build upon this skill, and you're going to not only work on your speaking, but also your comprehension. And remember when I said there's a nonverbal skill set side to the speaking? This is what I mean by it. Speaking with a human is actually going to improve your skill a lot. And then with this practical practice, this will help you become more fluent. And just so that we're clear for everyone who just joined us a second ago, fluency is not about speed. Fluency is a mix of accuracy. So the message you are giving is clear and there are no mistakes that you are making that is hindering or stopping the the message from being delivered. So grammar mistakes, structure mistakes, literal translation mistakes, all of these things are not stopping the message from being delivered. Okay? So it's not confusing, it's clear. The fluency means you're able to deliver the message in a clear, timely manner that makes sense to the speaker and to you. What are the steps should I take to follow it to think in English? In English, Rufaida. Be careful because you just thought about that sentence in Arabic. How did I know? The preposition. Thinking in English can happen through watching a lot of things. We don't live if you don't live in an English country, and this is probably the norm, you need to watch a lot of series, movies, and things where the culture and the language are being applied in different scenarios and different situations for you to be able to pick up from it. What happens when you focus only on the events that are happening is that it turns these events and connects them with the vocabulary, with the idioms, with the expressions, the intonation, everything as a package is being saved in your mind. And because I didn't use Arabic as a medium while I'm watching, when I try to produce similar language, I will copy what my brain already took in. So long story short, Rufaida, you want to think in English, you got to start watching things in English. Do not use English subtitles. If I use English subtitles, I will be able to have more vocabulary, maybe, because then I am reading. However, it will not help me with my listening comprehension and my conversation skills. How can I get rid of hesitation? We just talked about that. Let's see. Ooh, Moses, that's perfect. Speaking with my friends and speaking with my children. Right now, these days, we have a lot of friends and a lot of people who go to international schools. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with practicing your language with your kids. Language itself and the speaking skill itself can be picked up through the conversations you have with your children, the context that they're watching, the movies and the series that they have. Pixar and animation movies are some of the most expression filled, resourceful movies that you will ever come across because they use more than just the language to deliver a message. And that's what you're going to start picking up in order to convey the message you want to convey as well. So it's a very, very, very rich resource. This is great and fun. Minna, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. Let's see. I wish to speak like you. Well, Abir, long story short, again, I've said that a bunch of times. But in a nutshell, let's use a different expression this time. I read, I listen, and I speak in English every day. Literally every day. The main issue is to talk about something you have no idea about it. No it, Wael. You can't talk about it even in Arabic. Any suggestions? Ooh, I'm assuming you're talking about the topics. My best, like the best piece of advice I can give you is to explain your opinion about it. So you don't have to give factual evidence. You're not there to give the examiner a lecture on this specific topic. You're not there to prepare a PhD on the factual analysis, analytics, and the numbers. You're there to give your opinion on the matter. So read the topic, think about it, build an opinion about it. What do you think? And start asking yourself some follow-up questions. Why do you think that? How do you think that? What played a role into you thinking that? And accordingly, structure your answer about that. Abir, to speak like her, it is going to cost you an arm and a leg. Actually, Fatima, it cost me nothing. What you do is, well, technically, it cost me one thing. It cost me time. That's the only thing. All right. As long as it's costing me time, I think we can afford that because we're all there for a goal, right? So if you listen and if you read and if you watch and you speak, you'll be fine. Simple as that. I think I have to start a pronunciation course with you. Like I said before, pronunciation has to do with correct things, yeah? And I teach conversation, so it's more than just pronunciation. I really find myself with the English Vision team. Aw, we're happy to have you, May. What about pronouncing IES? The E's at the end of the words like activities? Okay, something like activities. There you go. But when you pronounce stories, I think it's different. Well, that's probably because there's a T before the IES in activities, and then you got stories, there's an R. The only difference is because the R is in the back of your mouth. So you gotta say R, and then you gotta come back and say E, right? So sorry, you gotta say R, and then you gotta flatten your mouth, and say E's. Stories. That's the only difference. But they're both E's. How to link words together like natives. Let's be clear about something, Hadir. Connecting speech, connected speech, um, was invented just to make the communication process faster. So Americans doing what they do, and this is why probably Dr. Khalil hates the American accent, and I can't blame him. But Americans being Americans, did this whole connected speech thing, and of course, British people have the connected speech as well, English people. But connected speech was there to deliver the message quicker. So instead of saying Assalamu alaikum, you say Assalamu alaikum, right? So it's the same concept. And in order for you to pick that up in a natural way and not sound super fake and say water, right? You need to listen to a lot of things and listen to the context and the stress and the intonation of how they say it. And that can be done through watching a lot of very culture filled things. If I want to talk like native speakers, can I do that or I have to be bored? Nope, definitely not, Mohammed. All of my friends who speak English the way I do, I think all of them, not just some of them, all of them were born and raised in Egypt and they haven't traveled to USA or any English speaking country. But the difference is that they had English engraved within their daily routine and their lives and their speaking and their listening and their reading and everything. So intuitively. Where was I born? Kuwait, actually, not that it's relevant. Talk about something. All right, we talked about that, Wael. Abdsalam, you can totally do it. Let's see. So humble. Thank you, Hassan. How can I practice effectively? Iman, practicing effectively means that you are actually hearing yourself speak, right? Hearing yourself speak and saying it out loud and recording yourself enables you to understand where the problem is and detect what you need to work on more. And like I said before, you got to make sure that it's not just something that you are reading. It has to be done the exact same way as you heard it. So you got to make sure that you're applying it correctly. Sample essays and listen to sample audios are great ways for vocabulary sources. Really, really good. Sample audios as well. Sample essays and sample audios, like Dr. Khalil mentioned, are very good for your IELTS training, and they're going to help you become more familiar with the language that you need for your IELTS exam. Some are, I think you're a bit late. What can I do to improve my pronunciation? Songs. And no, listening to the song is not going to improve your pronunciation. Someone singing the song will improve your pronunciation because we're trying to build muscle memory. All right. When you build muscle memory and you're able to repeat the sound the correct way or the same way that you've heard it, that's when you're starting to get it. And speaking English isn't hard. I agree, Amr. It's not hard at all. For example, these workers who continuously deal with foreigners are amazingly fluent regardless of the skills or writing or reading. Exactly. That's exactly our point. The more you are able to produce the language, or the more, sorry, you're able to be exposed to the language, the more you pick up from it and the more you're able to apply it yourself. And that's why listening to series and movies are super important. It's so important. All right. Let's see. Ooh, Mahmoud, very good question. If I don't know the meaning of a word, if I don't know the meaning of a word, for example, should I translate into Arabic or just search for the meaning in English? Always search for the meaning in English, Mahmoud. If you want this word to be there in your mind and it to be connected to context so that when you want to produce something similar, you can recall it faster, always do it in English. If I give my brain an excuse to build something in Arabic or to have a medium in Arabic, it will go back to Arabic. Bilingual and trilingual humans have this problem all the time, to go back and forth between both languages. And so, to avoid this hassle, especially if you're trying to develop one language in particular, you have to make sure you stick to it. Our brains are amazing things, I agree, but you got to be a little bit nice to it, right? So yes, and yes, practice makes perfect. Exactly. Let's see. How can you, dear, can you tell me how can I increase my skills in conversation? Yeah, sure, Rehab. Watching things, that's number one, because like Dr. Khalil graciously mentioned in the chat, by the way, if you have input, you're able to produce output. But because conversation also has a nonverbal aspect, which is the skill itself, the more you speak, at first it may be a bit rusty, it may take some time, but after that, you'll find it become second nature to you. You'll be able to produce the language quite comfortably in any conversation, and this will build it faster. Ahmad Sam, what are the other pronunciation problems with the Arabic? We've got the R, the ED, the B and the P, the CH and the SH, and then the short vowel sounds. These are the most common mistakes that Arabs make when they're pronouncing the words. So there. Nora, thank you so much. Let's see. Practicing makes perfect. Yes, it is. Speaking English with Arabs is much easier than speaking English with non-Arabs. Rehab, I gotta say, you're probably one of the very few people who think so. A lot of people who have practiced speaking with non-Arab speakers find it much easier from speaking with Arabs. And I think the problem is that if you are already anxious by nature and you're speaking in your second language, not your first language, you are already anxious, and this may come off as judgy and it can cause stress to the other speaker. And that's why usually with Arabs it's a lot harder. You feel like you're being judged a little harshly, whereas natives or English speakers kind of have this as long as I understand you, we're fine. This is the mentality that they come from. Thank you so much, girls. Rago and Hadir, you guys are amazing. Really, really, really an honor. I want to ask a question. Is accent important? Accent is not as important as accuracy. So if you're pronouncing the words correctly, no one's going to care much for your accent. As long as the words you're saying are clear and they are correct. Where's Dr. Muhammad? The session is really calm. Yes, it is. Dr. Muhammad has a way of spicing things up, doesn't he? He's an incredible mentor, honestly. We are actually almost, it's coming to the end of our session. I want to answer everyone's questions, but time is almost up. Let's see. Issue, how can I summarize a topic in order not to forget the new words? Please give us names of American series. Many American series that you want to watch that I highly recommend would be series that have a lot of culture. So if you watch something like The Young Sheldon, for example, or any sitcom, this is usually something that will help your language improve a lot, because when it's full of culture, then you're able to pick up on the sense of humor, which has to do with the stress, intonation, and your accent and sarcasm, idioms, and all of that is provided within real language context, and then you're applying it in the similar manner, makes you become more natural with the language. So, long story short, sometimes with IELTS learners specifically, some people have a problem going from 7 to an 8 or to a 9, and it's not a linguistic problem. Like, it's not because they lack knowledge or they lack vocabulary. It's usually because of the opposite. They have so many and they acquired it in an unnatural way that when they apply it a bit robotically. And so they make B2 mistakes, which in end harms their band. And so the best way to kind of overcome this step before you get there is to make sure that the sources that you are acquiring your language from are authentic sources full of culture, so that you are not just picking up words and expressions, you're actually picking up how and when to use them naturally. Let's see. Thank you, Ed, for helping. Let's see. Shuru, my honor and pleasure. Let's see. Could you give us the most common letters? Oh, yeah, the most common letters that are pronounced incorrectly, as I mentioned before, especially with Egyptians, th, the ed in regular past tense verbs, ch and sh. It's shared, not chaired, right? R, the R, your tongue has to go all the way back. It's not r, it's r. And last one is B and P. For some reason, girls think that it's cute to say B with a lot of air, and they say baby, which is not right. B has no air. You say baby, right? P has a lot of air. So go ahead and say a lot of air there. It doesn't make you cute if you're going to say B with a lot of air. Just saying. Let's see. Oh, yay, Arwa. I love The Young Sheldon. I used to watch it. That's great. You'll be happy to find out that they actually aired another season. So it's pretty cool. All right, yeah, Mr. Yes, it was very nice to meet you. Actually, we've got to wrap up as well. It was an honor and a pleasure to be here. Please make sure you guys do the listening that Dr. Khalil always asks you. I got 6 in speaking, but I need 7. What should I do? Mr. iPhone, if the problem that you're getting 6 is because of inaccuracies, like grammatical mistakes, then I highly suggest you read all of the essays that Dr. Khalil gives you, because that will slowly help your sentence structure. You can also watch things with English subtitles. This will help your grammar a lot. If it's because you are literal translating and you're thinking in Arabic first, then you need to watch without subtitles, because then you need to start building a connection with the language that is not dependent on the words being translated. So you got to make sure that it's there. Nisreen, my conversation course is available with the coordinators. Go ahead and ask. They'll help provide you with all the details regarding my courses. I just started around, but I'm sure they can sign you up for the next one. Many, because of your internet issue, all right, let's say this super quickly. Choose a series that has or is the genre that you find interesting. We are building a connection with the language where I'm focusing on the events. And to do so, you got to be interested in the events, because I want to be able to make a connection between the events and the language that is being used. I don't want to have to refer to subtitles in Arabic or in English. I want to be able to watch the events and then understand what's happening or comprehend what's happening, because in this way, I will be able to recall them in English, right? So if you ask me about what is the most beneficial genre for my English language journey, I would have to say sitcoms. They are not easy to watch because the sense of humor is different from what we're used to. but I promise it's worth the awkwardness in the first season for you to be able to build a culture-rich language and pick up the expressions in context so that you can use them naturally. An example would be The Young Sheldon, The Big Bang Theory, Friends, of course. And if you're into PG things like The Young Sheldon, to make sure that it doesn't have any inappropriate language or whatever, just go ahead and search PG series, and things like The Young Sheldon will come up, and usually Disney Channel series as well. All right, I want to answer all the questions. Let's see. Speaking questions are harder, not is Nisreen. Oh, I think Nisreen is harder in academic exam than in general exam. I believe Dr. Khalil gave you guys the audio samples for this reason, because it'll help you structure your answers. Language in and of itself is not going to help you with your IELTS. You got to make sure that you are doing both. You're working on the language side and you're working on the technical side, especially if you're doing academic IELTS. You guys, you got to make sure that you're applying all the techniques that Dr. Khalil is giving you. He's literally giving you the small keys to success, and you got to help him out with your own language too. But you have to apply them because IELTS is a business, and they're going to come in, they're going to look for a couple of points. You got them, you get the band. You don't got them, you're out. For websites to speak with English native speakers, Ahmed, I cannot with good conscience give you suggestions for websites like that, unfortunately, because the users abuse them a lot. Some of the examples that I've gotten that were quite nice were Cambly, I think, but not Cambly, sorry, it's called Cake, and I don't recommend it very much, especially if it's online. However, if you'd like to come or go to Maadi and just speak with someone from 9th Street or at a tourist attraction or monument, go ahead and do that as well. All right, you guys, that's all the time I've got for you guys today. And Sharif, the PG series, not PNG, no. PG is the rating. The rating means age appropriate for ages what to what. So PG means parent or guardian, and 13. Mahmoud, go ahead and ask the coordinators if you'd like to know more about my conversation courses, just so you know. When I focus on grammar during speaking, I lose the ideas, and when I focus on ideas, I make grammar mistakes. What should I do to solve this problem? Practice. Sorry, but it's practice. And thinking about the grammar is not going to help you with your ideas. So what you need to do is listen to make sure that you are acquiring things or the meaning or the ideas through English, so that when you start thinking about the ideas in English or thinking about the ideas, the English one will come directly instead of having to use Arabic first. Think about the idea, how to improve that. Think about the idea. I pause a lot in speaking. Sausan, if you're pausing because you're worried about the next word, other than practicing, I think the best thing for you to do would be for you to record yourself. And before you start answering, you take a minute, think about what you want to say, not how you will say it, what you want to say, and then reply accordingly. Yara, yes, I do. I have I'm the conversation course instructor. Nice to meet you. And if you're interested, go ahead and contact the coordinators, and they'll provide you more details about it.